Go ahead and start the meeting. It is now 7:01 p.m. The Board of Aldermen of the City of Brookshire will conduct a special meeting on Thursday, April 21st, 2022 at 7 o'clock p.m. in the council chambers of the Brookshire Municipal Building located at 4029 5th Street. Before we do anything, I would like to do the prayer and the pledge. Anyone feel like they would like to lead us in prayer?
Father God, we thank you, Lord, for another day you've blessed us to see, Lord, and we ask that you come with us today, Lord, and sit with us and lead and guide us today in this meeting. Father God, help us to make all decisions that will be better for this community and will be pleasing in your sight, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Harrison, would you do the roll call, please?
Mayor Branch,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Green,
Present.
Alderman Stamps,
Present.
Alderwoman Branch,
Here.
Alderman Jones, Alderwoman Taylor. You have a quorum, Mayor.
Okay. With that, let's go ahead and move on to agenda item number 3 is public comments. Mr. Warthall, did you want to
Yes,
say?
sir. Can I make a public comment tonight?
Yes, sir.
Mayor, Councilwoman, Councilman, Ms. Harrison, Chief Jackson. I come tonight to give an update on the mosquito control program for spring of 2022. So far, in 2022, we mosquito larvicided 440 pounds of standing water, ditches, and basins within the city limits. We've done 5 mosquito adulticide foggings. Tuesday the 19th, which was just last Tuesday, I couldn't fog because it was too windy. We had 20-mile-per-hour winds that night, so tonight we'll be fogging for Tuesday night. And then because Thursday tonight is a regular fogging night, I'm going to move it to Saturday the 23rd. And so I ask to please approve paying the invoices today in order to be paid in a timely manner. And I come to ask if there's any questions about the program, because I know in the past there have been questions, and a lot of times that holds up paying the invoices. So as we move along, I'm going to try to come to each meeting to make sure that everybody understands how the program works. Any questions?
No, sir.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 4. Discussion and possible action regarding resolution number 1353, a resolution granting a waiver of the parkland dedication or payment requirement of section 48-3 of the Code of Ordinance of Roland 5 LLC, final plat for the proposed subdivision titled Roland 5 Commercial Plaza, located at 34505 I-10, Brookshire, Texas.
So, Mayor and Council, this is an item that we discussed a couple meetings ago. The applicant is doing interior renovations at a property at a site that's located near I-10. The code, the way it's written now, requires any kind of development to dedicate a portion of the property for development, for parkland purposes. It doesn't necessarily mean a park, but it does mean some kind of open green space. The requirement here would be waiving that requirement for this because it's only an internal internal redo of the parcel. So, and just as a note, some of the proposed changes to your code, this is one of them, to address when this kind of requirement would be applied to a property. And it's, I mean, the city attorney's opinion and your planning staff that don't think that it should be applied in this kind of situation. But because the way the codes are written right now, we have to seek a waiver from it because there's no exception. So giving approval, all it's going to do is allow the permit and the plat to proceed without that dedication on it.
Okay.
More discussion?
No, sir.
Motion?
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 1353.
Second.
Give me a second. And Ms. Branch, your vote?
For.
Okay, agenda item number 5, discussion and possible action regarding resolution number 1354, a resolution approving preliminary plat of the OLO Brookshire Reserve Edition, creating one commercial lot of approximately 21.369 acres, generally located northeast of intersection of Garvey Lane and FM 362 in the extraterritorial jurisdictions of the city, subject to conditions.
So Mayor and Council, this is just a simple preliminary plat approval. We have to do it. The development services teams reviewed it and has made minimal comments on it. And they recommend approval subject to the comments in their memorandum.
Any of y'all want to stand up and take your 2 minutes that you're like, no, I'm just joking.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for having us. My name is Christopher Brown with EHRA. We're a local applicant for the plat. We have a number of representatives from off lease only, which is what OLO stands for, and they are the developers of the tract. I'd like to introduce Jeff Schubert, just to say a couple words about what off lease only is going to be doing in the community, and then we'll let you get to dinner.
Just real quickly, thank you for hearing us tonight. This is the opportunity to let you know we're excited about coming here. We are developing a reconditioning center for a sale facility of used cars, and it is the jobs will be approximately 120 to 125 new jobs for the community. So we're excited to bring that here to this city.
Could you state your name for me, please?
Yes, Jeff Schubert.
You said it's a reconditioning.
Yes. So the cars that are purchased will come here, they'll be reconditioned and then brought to the sales facility.
Anyone else would like to speak?
No, sir, I think that's it. We just wanted to come and introduce ourselves. Welcome these folks to our first city that come from out of town. We are a local firm. Myself, Jackie Overton is our planning manager, and we're the ones that are going to be just guiding things through the process here in the jurisdiction. And happy to be working with you.
Approximately how many jobs, employment opportunities will your company provide to the city?
Somewhere around 120.
That's what I thought you said. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, ma'am.
No one
Glad
else?
to have you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Are you bringing employees here, or are you hiring locally?
Majority of people will be hired here. There may be one or two that'll come from, we haven't even posted it as a job offering it internally. We'll do that though, but it'd be very rare to see people relocate from Florida.
Yeah. Yeah, understood. Understood.
Any more discussion?
Sir.
A motion?
I make a motion that we accept Resolution 1354.
Second.
Mr. Stamps? Mr. Green, your vote?
4.
And Ms. Taylor?
4.
Motion carries. Let's move on to agenda item number 6. Right.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Discussion and possible action regarding ordinance number 22-697-15, an ordinance amending section 18 through 20, local amendments to the state regulations of Article 2, food service establishment, Chapter 18, health and sanitation, the code ordinance, City of Brookshire, Texas, to provide mobile food units and temporary food establishments within the city of Brookshire.
So, Mayor and Council, this was at the request of Councilwoman Branch, and the reason it's written complicated and that the title's complicated is because the way that your food chapter was structured, instead of having an ordinance that laid out how someone went through the permit process to get a food truck here, what it did is it said that you adopted the state law, like all the text of that, even though it wasn't included in your code. It said all the text is adopted except for these amendments. And then how your code is structured is all the amendments to the state law wording is what's in your code. So the request was to eliminate, mobile food units, food trucks. And there's 2 different ways you get there under the state law, and that's through mobile food units and temporary food, I think, permits. And so what's happened here is that those 2 are allowed right now in your code, mobile food units and temporary food establishments. So they're just removed, and if that's the way that now if you read the state law wording with what's been provided in your code, mobile food units are not allowed in the city, and neither are temporary food establishments.
Justin, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How would this affect our food vendors for temporary, say our city festivals and so forth and so on? When we have festivals, we usually have vendors that come in and set up for food booths.
Yeah, so two things you can do. I mean, the first answer is they're not allowed by the wording, but you are allowed under state law to waive any of your own requirements. So there's 2 ways to go about that. You could adopt the ordinance as it is now, and then just there'd be the city wouldn't receive any they wouldn't approve any applications for any mobile food units or temporary food establishments. You could then just rely on the state law and allow, for certain events like that, city-sponsored events or whatever, to waive your own requirements there. Or we could modify the ordinance that's before you and add a section that, allows them under certain times or for certain events, and I'd make, we could work together to whatever wording you wanted for that kind of allowance. So it would work either way. They're prohibited right now, and they would still remain prohibited either if you adopt it or if we adopt a modified version, just because you're allowed to waive it under the state law. But, we could specifically call that out in this, in this amendment if you wanted.
So if I made a motion to accept ordinance number 22-697-15 and ask that the revision be of temporary food services for city festivals.
Yes, I can make that amendment, and that would be fine. That'd be a fine motion.
So how does this affect the mobile food units we have?
They're grandfathered in, correct, Justin?
Yeah, so,
And-
so they'd be under the current rules, whatever the terms of the permit they were issued under right now, those still stand. They're not banned. Like I know we approved one, like the last meeting or the one before that. I think it was like a 30-day or 60-day, that time frame, nothing about that changes. It's just what's going to happen is whenever their existing permit, lapses, or if they violate their permit, when that food vendor comes in to get another permit, they won't be allowed to do that under this ordinance.
So basically, they're just finishing off their permits, whenever that may be.
That's right. Yeah. So the existing permits stand, and then until they expire.
Ms. Branch, that's your motion?
That is my motion.
Second?
It dies for lack of a second.
Clarify what Justin was saying, was he saying that the existing businesses that are there, their permit would expire and then they would be out of business, or would only be if they violate their permit?
No, once that permit is over, they
And
won't
they're
be
out
able to.
in 30 to 60 days?
Yes.
Well, Justin, I misunderstood you, and I'm glad nobody seconded my motion. Because I think that if you have an established and have been here for, and most of our food trucks that are here now should be able to renew. So I don't know if we're gonna have to rewrite this, or can you just put the revisions in?
Well, my suggestion, and if that's what we want to do, is that we rewrite it or provide another provision in it, just because, and this is not your fault or anybody's fault, it's just the way that it was adopted, it was kind of squirrely, and the reason is because of the way, instead of writing out a permit process in the code, what it did is, since you adopted the language from the state code, but you didn't really put it here, all that was in your code is amendments to the state language. The reason why that's a problem is that neither the state code nor your own code defined what a temporary event is, and all of your mobile food vendor permits are the way the existing code is now. You cannot, as a council, approve a mobile food vendor permit, the mobile food unit permit, so no food trucks, unless it's associated with a temporary event. But that word temporary event, that's not in your code, and it's not in the state code. So the way that you all at the council have been, kind of going around that is saying, temporary event can mean, just a few days a week. You're not there permanently. And so what I think we could do, what I've gotten here before you is an ordinance that will ban them in the city. And again, what that means for the current users is when their permit expires, there's no other allowed, uses like that. If we want to continue the existing permit holders, they can continue on, then we probably need to add some kind of provision that will address existing permits that they can continue. And then we need to have some kind of process where they can renew their permits under terms that, satisfy the code. But it's going to be difficult, like the one we approved, I think the last meeting or the meeting before that was only for like 30 days. And so then the question would have to be for that permit holder, when that 30-day period expires, what do they do? And so then what this code is going to say is that they can't come back. And so we need to know if you actually do want food trucks in the city, under certain terms, then we need to provide for that.
I agree,
I'd
but
like to rescind my motion and table this till we can
correct.
think through further on this.
I agree, because Justin, I believe the issue that we're having is there are, I want to say, Ms. Branch, I believe 3 vendor trucks that have been here for like years, and I can understand what we're not wanting to do is to actually allow new vendors to be able to come in, but continue services with those who have establishments that have been here for years.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Then I'll work with Ms. Branch, and we can figure out, whatever language works, and then we'll have this at the next council meeting.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Justin.
No problem.
Mayor Branch. Mr. Chambers lives a long ways away. You good?
What number
Okay,
is
I
it?
was trying to help you out, Mr. Chambers, but I'm not
Number is
gonna help you no more. We just gonna leave you at number 12.
Ms. Branch, whenever we have the discussions with Justin, and maybe one thing to kind of keep in mind for future developments, or food truck parks are becoming really popular. And if we want to see that type of development in our community, then keeping in mind that ordinance needs to reflect the allowance of that without having to go back and make another revision of the ordinance in the future. And they're good business too. Paying a lot of money.
Instead of keeping them at the.
Okay. Let's move on to agenda item number 7, discussion and possible action regarding publishing a request for qualifications for a city engineer or firm. Ms. Branch.
Justin, you gonna cut me off or I can go ahead?
You can go ahead.
I put this on the agenda because we hired Gunda as temporary, and I think our cap was at $50,000. And before, if we haven't made it to that point, or before we get to that point, I think that we are to advertise, or go out for new engineers, and maybe an engineering service that also does permitting, because things are just not quite right.
My question is, how much longer do we have Gunda under contract? How many more months do they have?
So Councilman Stamps, that's what I was going to address. That technically, right now, the Gunda Corporation is not your city engineer. They are a planning services group, and their contractors. So that's the first thing. They're not their city engineer. They're your city development services group. They've been under 2 different contracts with the city. One that had originally was done like in an emergency type, acquisition, because you had no staff that was qualified or had any experience, dealing with permits or reviewing plats and all that. And so because you had no staff that could respond to the state requirements that relied to plats and all that, and you're under a lot of obligations there, and you had to bring somebody in. So that's the first contract, and that's the contract that was capped at $50,000. You approved a resolution a few months ago, I think like 4 or 5 months ago, what that did is it altered that original contract with Gunda, and then you brought them under just a general planning services contract. And under this existing contract with them, there's no cap. Okay. And so there's no $50,000, limit or anything like that. The only kind of cap that's inside that agreement is that you have a 6-month term with Gunda that can be renewed for, 6-month terms until the time that, the city and Gunda agree to separate. And under that agreement, the intent of the Gunda services being here is to set up the policies and procedures for your staff so they can handle the permitting and the platting review and all that. So I'm saying that just to clarify that what you have right now, you actually don't have an agreement with the city engineer. You had an agreement with Dr. Clay, but he has bowed out of that role and as far as what I've seen, he does not do any engineering review for the city. That's problematic for you all because you need to have a city engineer. And so what that's meant for Gunda is by default they've had to provide, because they provide those services, they've had to provide engineering services just to get through those state requirements that are applied to platting and permitting and all that. So just to being clear here, when we can for sure, and I think we definitely need to go out for qualifications for a engineering firm, but that even if you enter into an agreement with an engineer, that doesn't necessarily take out Gunda. They have an existing contract for planning services. Now, if you do it, if the services that we submit, like you mentioned, Ms. Branch, include all the services right now that Gunda is providing, so essentially from start to finish, all your development type services, planning, all of that, and you bring into that engineering services, then that, if you enter into an agreement with the engineer or and more than likely a firm that can provide all those services for you, then the Gunda contract would be superseded by that, by the one you would get. So, and I think that what we did, we have gone out for RFQs on these things before, and you got two responses. One was the Gunda Corporation responded for engineering services, and you had another one, but the city took no action on that. But what you do have is a planning services agreement with Gunda, and that's what they're doing now, is providing all the planning services relating to platting and permitting. And so that just for everybody's understanding, that's where the city sits right now. And there's nothing at all prohibits you from going out for another engineer. And the engineer you're going to be replacing is Dr. Clay.
When
Latte is our acting engineer at the present moment, correct?
Who'd you say?
Latte.
No, they're the planning services, and by default, under their contract, they will perform, and I can't remember the exact term, it's like ancillary engineering services, but they're only going to be related to the planning services they have to provide. And so that by default, they're going to have to do that because, platting is a big issue under a lot of state regulations, and it requires engineer review. And if Dr. Clay, who is, stepped out of his role as city engineer, then you need somebody to do that. So the Gunda Corporation provides those services, but they will only do that under their contract if absolutely necessary. And here, since you don't have a city engineer, that's what they have to do. So it's not. So I mean, it's kind of your answer. The answer to that question is yes and no. It's yes by necessity, but no by you have no contractual relationship with any city engineer.
And I was in communication with one firm and one individual engineer when we brought Gunda on, and I can reach back out to them. I'll get their information and bring it before council.
And Justin, when we do this and even go out with bids, I don't know, I'm sure it can't be addressed under this agenda item, but could we include it to be the Katy Times as well as the Houston Chronicle? Because I'm finding that we're not getting enough attention, and I think that's causing us to have a big setback.
Yeah, and that's fine to address it under this item. So there's two things about that. One, and I know you didn't mean to do this, but I'm just going to make sure everybody understands. We're not allowed to bid for engineering services or professional services. What we do then is we go out for this request for qualifications. And so what that means is when this gets posted, it'll be what you're going to be looking for is some firm or individual or a firm that you believe in there and you trust their qualifications. And that's the first step. And you interview people and you have them present to you whatever process you want to do that would help you find confidence in their qualifications. And then if you find that firm, then that's when you negotiate cost of their services. And then if that breaks down, then you go to the next group that you find most qualified and you go that way. So that's just the difference between going out for qualifications and going out for proposals. Proposals generally include cost. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is when you advertise either of those things, the main posting is in a newspaper of general circulation for 14 days. Nothing at all prohibits a city from posting this on your website or seeking out other kind of publication methods. And so that's a long answer to your question, but yeah, you can as long as you have it within your go-to record of choice of general circulation, nothing prohibits you from putting that in other publications or publish it online, just so that it can get more attraction. And what some cities do is if you have like in this case, say you've worked with some engineering firms or something like that, and you know that they may be qualified, nothing prohibits you from submitting to them the RFP packet or their RFQ packet so that they can respond. So, I mean, the intent of this is to get out as much notice as possible so that you have a wide range of responses so that you can make a better choice in who's qualified.
Great.
This one.
Don't forget to pick up them packages. But in the meantime, I'd like to make a motion that we move forward on hiring, on going out for a city engineer or firm and advertise as in the Waller Times as well as the Houston Chronicle and the Katy Times.
Second.
Mr. Green, your vote,
4.
and Ms. Taylor.
4.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 8. Discussion and possible action regarding the payment of mileage reimbursement to Gunda Corporation LLC according to its planning service agreement. Ms. Branch.
Justin?
So this is similar to the last item. This is going to relate to the newest version of their contract that doesn't have a spending cap on it or anything like that. It's under the provision of planning services. And I think this should be in your packet. There was a resolution approved by council to approve this agreement. And the exhibit, there's an exhibit or attachment to that agreement that is the costs associated with the services. And one of those costs are reimbursables for mileage, and according to whatever current federal standards are there. And so if we're gonna address mileage payments, then we need to, I think it's as simple as amending that exhibit or attachment to the agreement to remove that mileage reimbursement.
So if we tabled this and ask you to, if the rest of the council agrees that we need to amend that, you could have that ready for us at the next council meeting as well?
Yes, ma'am.
That'd be my motion.
Second.
Mr. Taylor, Mr. Stamps, your vote,
4.
and Mr. Green.
4.
Your motion carries. On that, we'll now go to agenda item number 9, discussion and possible action regarding bids received for the convention center repairs. Ms. Harrison, how many bids do we have now?
It's very high, and if you read in it, it says to replace 2 old toilets and 1 sink. Well, there's 3 toilets in there, there's 2 sinks, and this is, I know I'm the main one that is pushed to have that convention center restrooms refurbished. I'd like to ask the council, could we once again open up bids for 2 more weeks and advertise in the same newspapers and see can we get more people interested, because this is a very high bid, and at looking at it, I don't think that that's gonna
Well,
work.
we couldn't accept it anyway because it doesn't have what we need, everything we need done on the bid.
The sinks is going to have to be moved in the men's room. The toilets is going to have to be rearranged. We need, what's going to happen is the floor is going to be, the concrete is going to have to be busted up in order to rearrange everything, move the toilets around, and make everything to,
Now, that's not gonna be a cheap bid.
oh, no,
No,
no.
but this,
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, Ms. Branch, is that your motion to have it advertised and?
well, matter of fact, Mr. Stamps, yes, it is.
May I ask, I want to be clear. So what on the specs, because this is the same specs that we had from the beginning, other than the hallways and the kitchen. So you're saying instead of 2 toilets, it needs to be 3?
It's
One.
3 in there now, and I do understand that they're going to have to make one stall larger due to the ADA and it being a handicap, but we should be able to still fit in enough. I think somebody ought to walk through, like Mr. Kelly or the mayor, walk through and explain exactly what we're really looking for, where the bid can be a proper bid and we can quit postponing.
Well, no one
Yes.
showed up for it, the walkthroughs twice.
As in employees, I mean,
No,
the
as
mayor or
in
public
people
works.
that to bid, that's also in the advertisement, that there is a day for walkthrough for them to show up, and no one did. This person that bid has been in there and seen.
Oh, but he didn't come and walk through with
He didn't
anyone.
come walk through again, cause this was the only bid you had before, but it just came in too late.
Yeah, that's my motion, Mr. Stamps.
But so that's the only change in the specs is the 3 toilets in the women's. 'Cause there's 2
Is there, is,
There's 2 in the men's restroom along with the
The
urinal,
urinals.
correct?
Yeah.
It's got 2.
And there's a double, is it a double or a triple sink in there? A double sink.
Double sink. Double sink.
A double sink.
It's
Yeah.
double.
It-
is there someone here from National?
It says replace 3.
Yes.
Yes, they
But
do.
he wants 2 old toilets.
I'm not sure as to what you were referring to, not walking through, I believe we did walk through.
I
I'm not
said
sure
that
if you're referring to other people.
I'm saying for the date on the advertising, those dates that were set, no one showed for that. But I just said, he already walked through, he had been over there already, prior to
So
us
if
reposting.
the mayor or any of the council members would like to walk through with us so we can explain the bid, it'd definitely be, some help to kind of show what exactly we have listed. As for the toilets, I believe the original request did, mention the 2 toilets. And then we received another request mentioning the 3rd toilet, so that's actually under the extras, where it mentions relocate and plumbing of the toilets. And so that was, in regards to the 3rd toilet. The original bid did have the 2 toilets in there already. So honestly, it'd probably be in everybody's benefits if we could just walk through with y'all.
Sure.
So we know and explain everything in the bid.
Okay.
So if y'all want to schedule that, we would definitely be, interested in doing so.
But you're gonna have to redo your bid anyway because we're asking for 3 toilets in the women's restroom. In your own.
Yes, ma'am. So
So that's what I'm saying, he putting it on, he putting it on extra.
Women says
That's what
3.
he's saying, what, he put it on here for extra, this is extra.
He said remove and replace.
3 toilets and 3 sinks.
But they
At first it was
in
just
order
2.
to do what,
On his actual proposal, it says 3.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
in order to do some of the work, it's all gotta be moved around and stuff. What's your name, sir?
Richard,
Richard Gomez.
This the one that's come out.
Mr. Kelly, you had a
This the
comment?
original. This is the one
If you have a comment?
they added the 3rd one right here.
Mr. Gomez, when would you be available to, do a walk through with maybe me and Mr. Kelly? And, make sure I have your number. And I can call you, see if we can set up a time to, okay?
My motion still stands to open up the bidding process for another 2 weeks and advertise in our Waller Times, Katy Times, and the Houston Chronicle.
Okay.
Second,
Ms. Taylor, you second? Mr. Stamp?
Four.
And Mr. Green?
4.
Okay. We'll have the walkthrough and get that done. Motion carries with your motion. The next agenda item is number 10. Discussion and possible action regarding changing the regular meeting date of May 5th of 2022. Ms. Harrison?
May 5th is a city holiday, unless you guys want to meet.
And you have a date that you would like to move that to, or?
What y'all think?
About that Tuesday. The 10th.
I won't be here.
Tuesday the 10th, and then you would, okay, and then your next,
I think I'm busy on the 10th too.
Mr. Green says he won't be
so
available.
you guys could either do it the week before, but that's next week.
Yeah, that's next week.
Let's just keep it up. Let's just cancel.
What about the 9th, that Monday? Is anybody available?
I'm leaving.
Okay.
Um,
We're going to need to, canvass on the 16th or 17th. But it may, I didn't know if you guys wanted to wait that long to, that's the week of your regular meeting, your second regular meeting.
We can wait that long. I can. Now give us time to have these bids in place
And
and
publish.
people to have been able to walk through and everything. So,
So,
We're just sticking to the regular scheduled meeting.
So the
Yeah.
19th.
well, it's
Council-
not, it's
Well,
gonna
not
be-
that one, but the following regular scheduled meeting.
Well, that won't be your regular meeting, that's gonna, you have to canvass.
Okay,
By
that's
the-
right, before then, that's right.
It either, and I haven't talked with the county elections office, on if they're gonna have it ready for that Monday. Is Monday or is Tuesday better for most of the council? That's the 16th and 17th. One of those 2 days, we're gonna need to canvass.
the 17th.
The 17th, we're
That's
gonna go with the
fine.
17th.
That's fine.
All agree? 17th of May.
So, do we need to get a formal motion, Justin?
I make a motion that we cancel the May 5th meeting and move it to May the 17th.
Second.
So, 7 p.m.
Mr. Stamps
4.
and Mr. Green.
4.
Thank you.
So just, this is Justin again, to make sure everybody's clear on that, that what's going to happen is not a problem. It's just going to be some funny quorum rules. So for canvassing, state law requires only 2 members of the body to be present. So as far as canvassing goes on that agenda, you only need 2. But because the rest of the meeting will be a special meeting, we'll need 4 of you there. So just make sure that 4 of the 5 can be available and we're good.
Okay.
And I also normally on the nights that we canvass, we do the meeting a little earlier, or if you wanna leave it at 7, no, about 6:30. Or do you wanna leave it for 7?
Be pushing it, I'm just.
Oh, you'll be, okay to get
So,
them,
yeah.
okay.
So I'm
And
gonna
that's
try.
fine. I just asked, cause I didn't want anybody to come back and say, well, we normally do this at 6:30. Okay. 7 p.m., okay.
Okay. Agenda item number 11, discussion and possible action regarding adding May 6, 2022 to the holiday schedule.
Just making a motion. I make a motion that, I'm sorry.
That just means that I personally would like them have the option to work on Thursday and be off on Friday.
Mhm.
But that's just my thought.
Can,
Um,
can we go into a little detail of how this came about? This,
For May 6th.
We
yeah,
were
the
just
Because we-
discussing that, for the simple fact that you work Monday through Thursday, and no.
Monday through Wednesday,
And off Thursday,
and then
and
come back on Friday.
Friday.
All work Monday through Thursday and be off Friday.
Yeah.
Because really and truly, who it affects, the police department's 24/7. Public Works has got to work, Cinco de Mayo, so they're gonna have to work
Saturday and Sunday.
and a half a day. Mr. Kelly, aren't y'all planning a half a day on Friday to set up for Saturday and Sunday?
Yes, ma'am, we would have to work a half a day, because it's generated power lights and everything that Friday. No, just only me saying it, now, nobody take it personal. To me, I feel like the workers should have Thursday and Friday, even though I got to bring my guys in that Friday. Cause it ain't just you go out there and set up. You got to run errands and get everything set up before they get there. But y'all the council, y'all make the decision.
But if your department took off Thursday because they have to work on Friday and the weekend,
Yeah, we can work a half a day on Friday, regardless, but I gotta go to Rim's place and pick up stuff that they go on Saturday.
I just hate to see City Hall. We have a lot of people that's pulling permits and stuff,
Yeah.
but that's up to y'all.
Or just do Friday,
Yeah, that's what I would say, just have Friday.
Friday,
So they work Thursday and have Friday off.
yeah.
Who, are you talking about
Can I ask a question?
whole thing?
So just a point to consider. It's because it's Cinco de Mayo, it's the 5th, it's on a day, it's like December 25th. So if Christmas was falling on a Thursday, what would you decide to do about Friday?
They'll
We-
be off
they'd be
Friday.
off.
They'll be off Thursday and
It
Friday.
happens to be Christmas and never Cinco de
Correct,
Mayo.
correct.
I think they should be treated.
They'll be off
the
Thursday
same
and
way.
Friday for Christmas.
Yes, they should, it's just a holiday.
Right, they're getting a day off for the holiday. The holiday
Yeah.
is,
Christmas Day was on Thursday. Would you vote as a council to give them the 26th?
sir,
off?
they have off for Christmas, they have off the half a day before Christmas Eve,
And the day.
Christmas, and the day after Christmas.
Okay, so I think that sets a precedent for what you should be looking at for this day.
So you're saying that we should consider
The
Cinco
5th
de
and the
Mayo
6th.
and have 3 days off?
I'm saying you set a precedent for a holiday that falls on a specific day of the week to give additional days off around that holiday. Now, if it's because there's other considerations, that could be a part of it,
Okay.
but if it's simply because you're looking at the fact that it's falling on a Thursday because the 5th this year happens to be on a Thursday, I think you can decide, set a precedent that you're gonna continue
Friday.
for all holidays, treat them equally. Whether it's a Cinco de Mayo, Christmas Day, whatever it might be.
Or I would say, instead of not having them come at all, let them work a half a day on Thursday and then be off on Friday. Work to noon. And that way you're not closing down the entire day on Thursday.
That's fine.
whatever y'all think.
I don't have a problem with that.
What's your problem?
I don't have a
Oh, well. Okay, let's,
Fresh, your motion is, did you gonna make?
Sure, let's hang Miss Branch out to dry. That we work on Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, a half a day till 12 noon, and be off Friday for compensation of working a half a day on that Thursday.
Second.
What day is July 4th on?
I know, right?
I know, right?
Be able to think this through before y'all get me up here.
okay, Mr. Green, your vote.
Four.
July 4th is another.
Ms. Taylor, your vote.
4.
Motion carries for the half-day of work on Thursday and off on Friday, correct?
Correct.
All right. Number 12, a discussion and possible action regarding ordinance number 22-696-15, an ordinance adopting a final budget amendment to the original budget of the city of Brookshire, Texas for fiscal year 2020 through 2021, providing for the funding of certain obligations of the city of Brookshire during the budget period that are necessary for the provisions of municipal services.
Good evening, Mayor, Council.
Good evening, Mr. Chambers.
How you all doing?
We're good.
The auditors have completed their work with the audit and they're ready to produce it. But before we can produce the audit, the city should consider and revising its budget so there's no overruns reported. This year, the city did very well in operation. We looking to increase fund balance $646,000, even though we are moving money around to cover overruns. But overall, the city did very well. You should have a copy of this in the packet. And that's the long and short of it. There's nothing to discuss unless they have any questions. This is what we do every year.
Unless Miss Branch wants to amend the budget in the middle of the year.
We can do that too.
Yeah, I know, I want to.
Oh, sir.
No
That's
question
good.
for me, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chambers.
you, Mr. Chambers. So, voting on this one too?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any
Make-
further discussion?
Oh.
Okay, no further discussion. Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
Make a motion that we approve ordinance number 22-696-15.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Green, second.
Also. Let's speak up, Ms. Green.
Ms. Taylor
4.
and Ms. Branch.
Or,
What are these?
Are you a speaker?
He said,
No.
okay. Agenda item number 13, discussion and possible action regarding invoice payments and reports. Anyone have, want to discuss any of the invoice payments or reports?
Matt, for clarity, Mr. Walthall was here, and I think when he was speaking of making sure he gets his invoices paid timely, because he sends them after the day he does the service, and probably staff is, you know, like we send things to you guys. Can you guys approve him being included in those invoices that are paid just like we do for training, any of those things that are automatic, to make sure that I can let the staff know that those don't need to come to you guys, other than you'll have a copy, but it'll be paid already.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that is agreeable with you.
Okay, now I'm ready for a motion.
I make a motion that we'll approve all invoice payments and reports.
Second.
Ms. Taylor
Or,
and Ms. Branch.
I abstain, Mayor.
Motion carries anyway. Let's move on to agenda item number 14, discussion and possible action regarding prior city council meeting minutes. September the 9th, 2021, September the 16th, 2021, October the 21st, 2022, and November the 4th, 2021, November the 18th, 2021, December the 6th, 2021, and December the 16th, 2021.
Mayor, may I make a correction, please? That is October 21st, 2021. It's a typo.
October the what?
21st,
The October minutes, that's actually 2020.
2021.
Okay.
I don't know about y'all, but I've been way too busy this week to even get to that. And if y'all have read them and want to, I can just abstain, or I can make a motion to table to the next city council meeting.
That's fine. It's gonna add another one to it to make it a little longer, though.
We're gonna have.
Oh, no,
just-
we only on December the 16th.
The rest of them are ready. I just didn't want to put them, like, bombard you
Yeah.
to give you time to read, so.
So, Ms. Branch, your motion?
I make a motion that we table this to the next city council meeting.
second.
Mr. Stamps
4.
and Mr. Green.
4.
Okay. Motion to table to next meeting. Agenda item number 15, request for future agenda items. I'll start with you, Mr. Stamps.
Don't have any, Mayor.
Dr. Trustman. Dr. Trustman.
Mr. Green,
Yes, sir. The section 48-3 of Code of Ordinances that Attorney Justin spoke of earlier.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
The section
Mhm.
48-3 of Code of Ordinance. That's all I have, man.
I think that's a motorcycle going.
now, I think this, when Ms. Harrison is right, is shaking the table, I think. Anyway, Mr. Green, do you have any more?
No, sir.
Ms. Taylor?
None at this time, Mayor.
I only have,
Ms. Branch, go ahead.
I only have one, Mayor.
Okay.
We're having problems with the trash can, big time. And I'd like to discuss sending Republic, Justin, what's that letter called?
Letter Republic was, for termination, was sent as a draft to the mayor. So just so everybody's clear, I think that what's going to be suggested is that we have a future agenda item related to trash service and the current contract with Republic. So you can either do a couple things, Councilwoman Branch. You can suggest for a future item for, for maybe discussion and possible action on trash service providers to the city, or you can make that specific to the current contract with Republic. but a letter was sent to the mayor, a draft letter to be sent to Republic to address their current performance.
Okay, well, what would you like my motion to be then, sir, about the trash services not being provided and we need to either go out for bids? Do we get, I thought that there was, okay, so the draft letter that you sent to the mayor is the one that gives Republic 30 days to correct the issue, correct?
Yeah, so they have, the current contract with the public has a termination for breach of contract if they don't perform under the terms of the contract. So we've sent a letter to them telling them to cure the breach, which is non-performance in certain areas of the city. So, but nothing stops the city from inviting other providers to come and present to you. The interesting thing about waste management, solid waste providers like this is that they're not subject to the bidding requirements. So you can invite folks to come and present to you, what they can do. And so I think what you probably should do, I think what you're trying to get to is to have a future agenda item be discussion of possible action or presentation from a solid waste provider.
That's exactly it, Justin. Thank you for your
All
help.
right. Yeah, great.
I need a second though.
Second. We need it, so that's it.
Mr. Stamps
For.
and Mr. Green.
For.
Just to let everyone know about the trash situation, last Monday, over half of the town didn't get picked up. And this is,
The Monday before that, 2 quadrants of the town didn't get picked up, and heavy trash we need to somehow educate our citizens on what is acceptable for a republic and what's not. You can't just throw a laundry basket out there on the curb and then pick it up. So we need to discuss that.
well, we already have a flyer made that we can start passing around and to.
David was supposed to send it to me. I didn't check my email today, but
Oh, here recently?
I know what you said.
I talked to him yesterday.
Okay.
Okay.
We're ready for agenda item number 17, and it is,
Skip
The 16.
how did I skip 16? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get out of here. Agenda item number 16, council reports and community announcements. I'll start with you, Mr. Stamps.
Cinco de Mayo Festival, May 7th and May 8th. May 7th, we'll have the parade starting that morning. I know election will be that day. We're gonna make sure we skip past the city hall so there won't be any interference within the election. The first day is a half a day. That Sunday will be a full day with vendors and bands and rides and so forth for the kids from 10 to 8 on that Sunday, the 8th.
What time would your parade start?
At 10 o'clock on Saturday. And the flyers, there's flyers outside City Hall as well.
Yeah. You know the route? Are y'all going from the PD to the park?
Yes, from PD straight to Hovis Park.
But you're cutting down.
We're not gonna turn here. I don't know exactly where, but we're
I
gonna
don't-
turn
okay.
somewhere before we get here.
Okay.
You may wanna double check the flyer, I think there's a post on social media that said it was gonna start and end at Hovis Park.
Yes, well, okay, I got you. It's
I
gonna
would say
start at the
double check
police
it in case
department.
there's a change in that, so don't
Okay.
miss me.
All right, thank you.
Okay, anything else,
See you.
Stamps?
No, sir.
You?
No, sir.
Okay, for our adjournment, number 16,
I thought you-
17.
You ain't ready to
Adjourn.
go.
What?
You're not ready to go.
I'm ready to go.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Chief.